Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Building World Peace, an interview series showcasing modern mystery school initiates from all walks of life who are working for the same mission of building world peace. I am your host. I am Ling. I am a teacher, a guide, and a ritual master in this ancient lineage of King Solomon with a modern mystery school. And today I have with me a fellow guide and initiate and a fellow friend, Dawn Ressel. And I'm super excited to hear her story and share her story with you all. Hey, Dawn.
Hi everyone. Happy to be here.
Uh, could you introduce yourself briefly to us?
Hi everyone. I'm Dawn, and I am a guide, a ritual master, a healer, and a teacher in this wonderful lineage of King Solomon. And I've also been in the technology industry for 20 years.
Wow. Thank you, Dawn. Before we get into your full story, which I'm super excited to hear, could you explain to the viewers or the listeners who may not be familiar what is the modern mystery school and also what does it mean to you?
Sure. Well, the Modern Mystery School is basically a school for the soul and the spirit. And it's a way to become a better version of yourself and to let go of the things that are not really you. So it's really about joy and authenticity. And what it's done for me has been, I can't even begin to express all of the miracles that I've received through working with this school. I'm sure we'll get into some of them, but it's really allowed me to become a peaceful person, a joyful person, someone who loves life, coming from someone who didn't love life, who didn't have much enthusiasm about life, and who I didn't love myself before I found this school. I didn't believe in myself. I didn't believe in my own power. And so there's so many layers that the Modern Mystery School works on. But basically what it does is it gives us tools in order to uncover who we really are as divine beings and live life that way and heal all of the things that are holding us back from having what we're really entitled to, what our birthright is, to live joyfully, to live in our power, to live authentically, to express ourselves authentically. So that's what the school is to me.
Ooh, thank you, Don. Wow. Could you, I love that. I love that. Could you share with us your story, how you got
Yeah,
here to, where you are today?
sure. Well, when I met my guide with the Modern Mystery School, I had just gone through a divorce a few months earlier. And I was in a marriage for 13 years, and I didn't really know myself as an individual. I knew who I was in this relationship. I didn't like who I was in that relationship, to be honest with you. And so I was trying to figure things out. And so I met my guide at a potluck, and she started talking to me about magic and healing. And no one that I had ever met talked about those topics so openly or so candidly. I was in the technology world. I knew like hard data and facts and, business statistics. And, I didn't know anything about magic. I didn't even know anything about energy healing. I'd never even had a Reiki session. But when she was talking to me, I knew that what she was saying was true because it resonated so deeply with my soul. And so it didn't really matter that it didn't make sense to my logical brain. I felt it. I felt her words, and I knew that they were true. And I knew that she was someone who needed to be in my life. And I knew that she probably had some answers to the things that I was seeking, or she could at least show me the way. So I knew that immediately when I met her. So shortly after, I started taking classes with the mystery school, like some of the intro classes, what we would consider intro classes, like sacred geometry, astral travel, some meditation classes. And then eventually I got my life activation. And after I got my life activation, things started to open up to me that never happened for me before. So it was actually maybe a week or two after I got my life activation that I was going to Thailand on my first ever international trip, solo trip. So something to know about me is before I found the mystery school, I had a lot of fears. I had very severe generalized anxiety disorder. I had a lot of phobias about traveling and heights, and I had mild agoraphobia, which is fear of like basically being outside, of your own home. So my life was really small, but something was drawing me towards breaking out of that box. And so I planned this trip to Thailand on faith that I could do it. And then I had my life activation 2 weeks before that. And something really amazing happened, which was, part of the life activation protocol is you have a codon reading. And it gives you some images or messages from your spirit guides. And so I got all these beautiful nature images in my codon reading, but I didn't really know what they meant. And then I get to Thailand, and all of a sudden, all these beautiful images that came up in my codon read started unfolding. These beautiful orchids, this amazing coral reef that I went snorkeling and saw, all these flowers, these waterfalls, they just started appearing in my trip in Thailand. So that to me reaffirmed that, wait a minute, whatever happened in that life activation was real. And I know that's what my guides were trying to get me to believe at that time, just to believe that this is real, that this is actually, magic is real. And so that happened. But also another cool thing that happened on that trip was I started being able to live in the moment. And I was never able to do that before. I had so much anxiety in my mind. I was always worried about everything. And I was actually able to be still and be in nature and connect with nature and connect with the beauty that was in front of me and feel joy. Those were no new feelings for me, to be honest with you. So after the life activation, I was like, wow, I was really amazed at how quickly I shifted, but also all of the things that were resonant and the things that were validating my experience, that this was, that a real shift was occurring inside of me. So it was really beautiful. And then, I did Empower Thyself and Initiation shortly after that. And that's when I would say the roof blew open for me in my life. So immediately after Empower Thyself and Initiation, I no longer had generalized anxiety disorder. It was completely gone. I remember I was sitting at my dining room table a couple days after Empower Thyself, and the first day or two you're a little bit high on light, so you're kind of like, oh, I don't know what just happened, but it started to settle in. And then I was sitting at my dining room table eating breakfast, and I'm like, I don't have anxiety. Like, what happened? Where is it? And how it used to show up was just constant negative thoughts, constant worries, constant this feeling in the pit of my stomach that something horrible was going to happen. That was always with me, always. And it was just gone. And I couldn't believe it. I just thought, well, it must just be a fluke, or maybe this is a temporary thing. I don't know, but it seems like something might have happened in that initiation. And I just honestly waited. I waited a few months, to be honest with you, because I didn't believe it. I was so stuck in the world of logic that there was no logical explanation for how my anxiety disorder that I'd been working on through therapy for a decade could have just gone overnight. So I finally accepted it. I finally did accept it. And then I decided, well, I need to go to Healers Academy to learn how to do this life activation thing, because it works. It changed my whole life, And so that's kind of how I got here. And that's how I got to where I am today, which I could say a lot more about the miracles I've received, but those were a couple that happened really early on my path.
Wow. Wow. When you were talking about like doing empower thyself, and then in a way, healing your anxiety disorder. That is so powerful. um, did you get like diagnosed with a disorder, like
I did. Yeah,
you
I was
did? Oh
diagnosed by
wow.
a psychiatrist. I was on medication. I was in psychotherapy with a, psychotherapist, and it was just gone. And I was able to with the supervision of my psychiatrist, take myself off of the medication. I haven't needed it, for how long has it been? 4 years. I haven't needed it. I have no anxiety disorder. It's completely gone. Yeah, it's
That's
incredible.
amazing. It
It
is.
is.
Yeah, yeah. I'm curious, how, like, I guess, how were you able to break out of that cycle, right? Because I think where I'm coming from is, the word like disorders or syndrome, there's just so many psychological and mental labels, the labels of the different mental disorders that we have. And I think that sometimes it's easier to get stuck with those identities, right? So it definitely takes um, something different to even think or dream about the possibility of being different. So, like, how were you able to break out of that?
Well, I can't say that I completely understand it. I mean, we are in a mystery school because things are a mystery. However, I have reflected on this a lot because it was a big moment in my life. So I have a few things to say about that. I mean, one thing that I'll say about it is that I actually didn't believe it at first. Remember, I told you it took me a few months, and what made me finally accept it was I went into my sanctuary meditation, which is a meditation technique that we learn and empower thyself. And I talked to my spirit guides, and they said, "You don't need that medication anymore, Dawn. You really need to accept that you've healed." And at this point, there was a purpose in your life for that medication when you needed it. But at this point, it's only doing harm. It's not helping you. It's actually harming you. So accept the reality that you've healed, be grateful for it, and then stop taking the medication. So I did those things. But it took me a few months to accept it, because when you go from decades of living with something and then it disappears, it is hard. It was hard for me to accept that it was real. And it was a part of my identity. It was something that I didn't want, and yet I was still attached to. I was attached to that label, as you called it, because I didn't know anything else, right? So there's that. But, I really do believe, from my personal experience and having been on this path for a few years, that anxiety disorder comes from a place of darkness. And when we're bringing more light with Empower Thyself and Initiation, we're bringing the capacity for a person to hold 10 times more light. I really just believe that I was truly ready to let go of all that suffering, that I had done enough work to get me to Empower Thyself and Initiation, that my soul was ready to be free of those chains. And that light that came in, that 10 times more light, just was able to flush it out. There's a lot more I could say about it, but that's the short version.
Wow, I'm getting like goosebumps all over. Yeah, yeah. What you said about, I mean, everything. I can relate. I can resonate with that a lot. It's just so many, and it doesn't have to be a disorder. There's just so many things that we can attach ourselves to, and they may have been useful, or they may have even served us well at some point in life. But as we grow, as we expand, or in a way as our purpose changes, um, you know they may also have to change, and that comes for mental issues, but also relationships, jobs, so many things. And I know you have gone through jobs too. So you've certainly let go of a lot of
Yeah,
things.
And I think the purpose that served in my life, now that I look back, is that when I was ready to step into a space of service, I have that experience and I can help people who have been in that position because I know exactly what they're going through. And so it's given me a lot of compassion for people who suffer with anxiety disorder and phobias, and just generally keeping themselves small or not knowing who they are. All of those things that I went through put me in a position to be of greater service to humans.
Oh, oh, oh! Thank you. It feels so good. Oh, everything you were saying. I have a lot more questions, but I think they may come up as we move on to the topic of this interview, which is world peace. We both recently became guides in this in the mystery school in this ancient lineage, and I think for me it's definitely a high honor, and I believe it is for you too. So, Dawn, I mean, we here we're doing this work, we're stepping up because, I know you and we have to believe, we must believe that world peace is possible, at some level, right? Otherwise, what's the point? So, Dawn, what does world peace look like to you?
World peace to me looks like humans being at peace with themselves. It's pretty simple. I mean, when we are in peace with ourselves, when we are in a state of peace and balance, that's going to emanate out. It's going to create peace around us. And so if everyone were in a state of peace within themselves, we would have world peace, right? It's pretty simple, I think. I have actually wrestled with this for a while, but I think I was just making it way too complicated. And a lot of, I was also making it something that was outside of myself. I used to, before I found the mystery school, have this philosophy that, oh, well, if the governments or, the people in charge of the corporations or, always pointing the finger, if they, the politicians, etc., if they do something, then we'll have world peace. But now that I found peace within myself, I know that am capable of creating peace in my own life. I'm capable of spreading that peace to other people. I'm capable of serving people who are seeking peace. Why can't we create world peace? It's so simple.
Yeah, indeed. Well, then what does it look like when one is in peace with him or herself?
Well, I mean, to me, it feels that there's no fear of limitation. There's no fear of judgment, no fear of your potential or failure. You're free. You're free from fear because you know your capabilities, you know your power, you know your potential. And you also know that there's no real such thing as failure because everything is a learning experience. Everything is a lesson. So that's part of it. There's no fear. There's a lot less fear in world peace. Maybe none. Hopefully none, actually, right? Everyone is free to express themselves. And so individually, we feel free to express ourselves, but we're also accepting of everyone else around us being able to express themselves and be authentic. And what a beautiful world that will be when we are all able to be ourselves and not feel confined or restricted by external perceptions or programming, or what we think we're supposed to do, expectations. That'll be a peaceful world. We're all living our purpose. That's a part of world peace. We're all living our purpose. We're all working to serve each other and help each other in some way and create this world a better world. Every day the world gets better because of our efforts. And we're at peace with other beings. We're at peace with other humans, of course, but we're also at peace with nature. We're at peace with animals. We're at peace with the other magical beings that we share the planet with, that we learn about and Empower Thyself in other classes in the mystery school. We're at peace with other beings in the universe, even potentially, right? So there's no limit to what world peace can be, but it really does start within each of us. And we all have the power to create that world peace. It's not outside of us.
Yeah. World peace can first start with a peace in your own world. There's something that you mentioned, Dawn, that I do want to clarify with the viewers a little bit about fears. This is for the viewers and listeners, if you may disagree with the fact that there can be no fear, another perspective I would offer is that, yeah, you can feel fear, but when you have more peace within yourself, even with the fears, you will still do the thing. You will still get over it and choose to do the right thing or choose to do what's best for you and for others. Right? Because sometimes we do have fears, but what matters is you have the courage to win, to win over those fears, and still do what you need to do.
No limiting fears. Maybe that's
right.
That's how I should phrase it. No limiting fears, right? And maybe fear is just part of the human experience, even in world peace. I don't know, because we're not there yet. However, no limiting fears, right? No fears that are going to prevent us from living our purpose or doing the right thing or living in joy, expressing ourselves.
For sure. And I think for me, a lot of that piece about you can, if you feel fears, but do it anyway. Like a lot of that I learned from being on the Ritual Master path, right? Being on the warrior.
Totally. Yeah.
So, I just want to offer that perspective to the viewers. Thank you. So I think you may have alluded to this already, but maybe if you want to expand on it, was there a moment that you first realized that world peace was actually possible?
It was actually pretty recently, to be honest with you. I mean, I've been on this path for, depending on what you consider the starting point, 4 or 5 years. I think it was really when I was thinking about stepping up into becoming a guide that I started reflecting on this. Is it really possible? Can I contribute to world peace? Those were questions that I was pondering. And I finally came to the conclusion that, of course, it's possible, because look at how much I've been able to transform my universe. Going from a place of constant fear, constant anxiety, constant worries, constant disbelief in myself, constant negative thoughts about myself and judgments of others. That was only 5 years ago. And now I'm in a position where I've healed so much that I can actually step into service to help others. I mean, I'm just one person. If I can do that, everyone can do that. I really do believe that. There's nothing necessarily special about me other than I made the decision to do this. I invested in the time and the effort and made the decision, became committed to healing. And if everyone did that, they could do it.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. If everybody, I think an example would be, if everybody does what, Jesus, Buddha, insert whoever famous, person here, if everybody does what that person do, with the practice, with the commitment, that, there's no reason why you can't, because you are a powerful being and you are way more powerful than you can ever imagine.
Yeah, and one of our spiritual teachers said recently, Ipsiss Dave Lanyon said, ask the students, what would it take in order for there to be no war? Well, it would take everyone saying that they're not going to kill any other humans. That seems possible.
that's it, right? It's so
right?
simple.
It's so simple. And not that that's not a high enough bar for world peace, right? But you can start to see from there how we can easily create world peace if we all just start to agree that we're going to treat each other with respect, we're going to treat ourselves with respect, and we're going to work towards it, on an individual level and a community level, a family level.
Right, and the thing is, yeah, we agree that we treat each other with respect, and treat ourselves with respect without pointing fingers, right? Because I've seen a lot, like especially in the activism community, where, in a way, like they do hold, many people do hold themselves to high standards and also expect others to do the same. So when other people don't or fail to do that, then it's just like the whole world is collapsing, right? So there's that finger pointing. Yeah.
Yes, and I used to be an activist, not a spiritual activist, but a vegan activist. And I did a lot of finger pointing. I can tell you that. I did a lot of finger pointing, and it served no one. It did not serve me. It did not serve other humans, and it didn't even serve the animals. So I know what it's like to point the finger. And eventually, if you really want to grow, you have to start pointing the finger at yourself. You have to start looking at the mirror and saying, what can I do? What is my part in this? How do I change the world? By changing myself. And you can only create suffering with negativity. You can only create suffering with negativity. You cannot create suffering. You cannot create a peaceful world by judging other people or pointing fingers at what everyone else should be doing. The only way you can do it is become accountable and come from a place of love. That's how world peace will start.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I love it. I'm getting all goosebumps this whole time.
Yeah.
So Dawn, with all this vision, the world peace, all this conversation, can you share with us how are you, and how have you been contributing to this mission of building world peace, to creating this vision of world peace that you shared?
Yeah, well, I mean, first and foremost, working on myself and doing self-service to really become the best person that I can become, so that what I'm sharing with the world comes from a place of light and positivity as much as possible, right? Because all of our thoughts matter, our actions, of course, matter. We all believe that, I think. But, I didn't know until, I started on this path how much our thoughts matter, how much our thoughts really emanate out in the world. And so thank goodness I don't have anxiety disorder anymore, because I'm not emanating all that negativity, right? So that's one way, healing myself enough that I can be spreading light and joy instead of negativity. But also stepping into service, as a life activation practitioner, as a teacher, as a healer, and now as a guide, being able to help others who are looking for what I was looking for, which is, healing and meaning and joy. So that's really what I've been doing to help create world peace, is helping, helping to be an example to other people who might be seeking, and also just trying to be the best that I can be every day and try to be a better version of myself every day. Yeah, and another thing that I'm doing to help with world peace is really I've shifted a lot of my mindset around activism. And I mentioned earlier that I used to be a vegan activist, right? And I came from a place of judgment and anger and disgust. Honestly, I had disgust for other human beings. What kind of world is that creating? If we're always angry towards each other, if we're always judging each other, if we're always looking at other people's actions and thinking that they're wrong. And so letting go of all of that has created a huge space in my life for love to flow in and light to flow in and peace. And I can tell you that when I was an activist, I did not have peace in my heart. I didn't have a lot of love in my heart. yes, there was a lot of rhetoric that I was spewing about this is coming from compassion and love, but no. How can you say that I'm being compassionate and loving, to animals, and yet I'm being hateful and judgmental towards humans? It doesn't work like that. You can't separate those two things and think that together they're going to add up to something positive, that they're going to add up to peace, that they're going to add up to positive change. A positive plus a negative doesn't equal a positive. They cancel each other out at best, right? But really, I feel that negative was weighing so much heavier because it was weighing on me. It was making me really suffer. It was making me be in a place of negative thoughts and just always feeling ill and upset all the time. And you can always find things in the world to be upset about. It doesn't have to be veganism. It could be, oh, there's that war over there, or there's, people starving, or water, is polluted, the air is polluted. I mean, all of these things are valid. It's not necessarily that I think vegans are wrong. I still eat that way. It hasn't changed my diet. It's just changed my perception of how I think that relates to the world, how I think we can create a better world. And we don't create a better world through anger. We don't create a better world through judging other people's behaviors. We create a better world through holding space for people to grow and heal. And maybe, it's okay to point out facts to people that they may not be aware of, but it's completely their choice whether or not how they choose to behave, or how they choose to incorporate that into their life or not. And so just being able to let go of the idea that I can control other people or that I know better than other people about their own lives or their own choices, how much peace I've been able to gain through that is tremendous, right? And I think it honestly applies to any form of activism. It could apply to any form of activism, because if it's coming from a place of pointing a finger at other people and what they should be doing and judging them, the fruits will always be rotten. The fruits will always be rotten because you will always be eating at your own soul. You'll always be hurting yourself. And think about how much you're putting out there that's hurting other people too. We talked about how powerful thoughts are, right? If you're putting negative thoughts towards other people all the time, how is that helping? How is that helping the world?
Thank you. Wow. Yeah. The thing about like all the points about activism, I can see that. I too was, I wouldn't say I was an activist, but I certainly was very much deep into social justice in that, in the way that, anger and like using anger to change the world, right? Or like I would wake up every day in college so angry at the world, everything is wrong. And there's a story when you were sharing that I was reminded of is this was probably like either right after I did Empower Thyself or before I found the Mr. School, I don't remember, but I was working at this corporation, and one day there were people protesting outside. It's outside glass doors. So, and I came from liberal arts. I'm like for the little people. I'm like for the oppressed parties. That was my stand. And so when I saw these people just like standing outside, it was like protest for environment issues. So people standing outside, just like you're bad, shame on you. And I had this kind of like shock because I'm like, what are you doing? I'm on your side. Like I care. Like my values align with you. With people who stand on the other side. And then when I see those people like doing those things, shame on you to all the colleagues that I have been working with for years. Because I'm here. I know, these are just people who, are living their life. They're trying their best. They're doing what they believe will help them survive, will help their families, whatever it is that their goals are. They're human beings. And then to see them getting, I guess, energetic energetically stoned by the protesters. I was like, that was the moment I realized protest doesn't really change the world. It's just, and also activism in general, I guess. But that was, because that was when I realized how much hate and how much shame, all this can generate. And so that's what I was reminded of, which is it's a story I've never shared. But I want to share it, to let people know that in a way this is a thought of somebody on the other side.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, because sometimes we think we're being a good representative for that cause by getting angry and yelling and pointing fingers, and then it was a good wake-up call for you to know that actually the people I'm trying to help, they don't think I'm being a good representative for them because I'm coming from a place of negativity. How is that helping them, right? And I feel the same way, about some of the activism I used to do. And, it just didn't come from an energetically a clean place. It came from a place of hatred. And hatred is never going to produce love. Hatred is always going to produce rotten fruits. There's a lot of things that are happening in the world right now that are going to help animals and that are helping animals. But they come from a place of innovation. They come from a place of creativity. They come from a place of love, giving people better options on what they can eat, or, opening a beautiful restaurant that, where you put your heart and soul and love into the food and make people want to eat, that way through love. Those are ways that we can help the world and we can help animals, but it never comes from anger or judgment. It just doesn't. I never saw that produce good fruits in my life or in the world.
Yeah. And I mean, to be clear, bringing awareness is good, right? Like the education part of activism is necessary. I think, it's necessary. It's just the negativity behind it. And, sometimes, I mean, a lot of that sometimes is projected hurts and pains.
It's the energy behind it. And the other thing is that if we're always in a state ourselves of being upset and angry and sad and feeling defeated, how can we help the world? How can we be in a state where we can make things better when we ourselves are causing pain and suffering?
You can only share what you have.
Yeah, exactly. So what I was sharing was, a defeatist mentality and anger and, sadness and depression and judgment. I wasn't sharing positive fruits at that time.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you for, all those insights. So one of my last two questions for you is, what are some words of wisdom that you want to share for people who are looking to change the world? Like people who want to make the world a better place.
First and foremost, it starts with us. I think the world naturally gets better when we become better. It can't not get better, right? I mean, when we are in joy and when we are expressing ourselves and living our purpose, the world will benefit from that. Your immediate friends and family will benefit from that. Your community will benefit from that. And it'll spread. That light will spread. Light spreads so much faster than darkness. So we need to spread the light. And so that's my first piece of advice is, really focus on that self-healing and that joy and that expression and that creativity and all those gifts that you have that maybe you're afraid to bring to the table. Let go of all that doubt and let go of those fears and really dig into your soul and see what brings my soul alive. What creates that spark in my soul? Get out of the mindset of mediocrity that you have to just accept or settle for a life that isn't amazing, right? You deserve a life that is absolutely amazing. And so what are you doing to create that life that's amazing? And where are you settling? And where are you limiting yourself? Where are you stopping yourself from creating that? And it could be in every aspect of your life. I mean, it's really just continually reevaluating that too. I'm constantly looking at different aspects of my life and saying, okay, how can I make my home better? How can I make, my environment better? How can I make my work life better? How can I make my relationships better? How can I, all of these things is a continual process, but I'm never settling. I might look at something and say, that could be better. I'd like that to be better. But I'm never saying, I don't really deserve a nice car. I don't really deserve a nice house. I don't really deserve a good relationship. You know what I mean? So believe that you deserve it first and foremost, and then, figure out what you need to do to get there. But have that vision for yourself that's high. Have a high bar for yourself in terms of what you can achieve, how much joy you can have, how much you can create in the world, how much, abundance you can have, how much love you can have in your life. All of these things are possible. So I think it really just starts with believing in it and putting the work in to make it happen, but never settle. Never, never, never settle. Always be looking for how you can get better for yourself and how you can create a better life.
Thank you. Thank you, Dawn. And for those who have watched this, have listened to this, and they love your energy, they love you, and they want to work with you, how can they find you?
Well, thanks for asking. I actually just finished rebranding. My business is The Light Within. My website is lightwithinheal.com. And you can email me at dawn@lightwithinheal.com. Or you can find me on Instagram at Dawn Ressel. I look forward to hearing from you.
Cool. And I have all those information on the video and in the description too.
Great.
Thank you so much, Dawn. It was so nice chatting with you.
Thank you, Ling. I really appreciate you inviting me, and I really hope that this helps people.
Yeah, me too. I'm sure it will. I trust that we'll be able to find, the people who need to hear it will be able to find it. All right. Mwah. I'll see you. I don't know when, but I'll see you soon.
Yeah.
And thank you for your time.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye, Dawn. Bye, everyone.